Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about a taboo subject in the creative world, money. Specifically, the path to becoming a millionaire while staying in the design industry. For decades, we've been fed this romanticized, starving artist trope. This idea that if you're a real creative, you should be struggling in a loft somewhere, trading your soul for a paycheck. But I'm here to tell you that the starving artist is a choice, and for a millennial designer in 2026, it's a bad one. If you're new here, I've been a senior designer and art director for 15 years. I've worked on global campaigns for Marvel, Bally Sports, Cobalt, Microsoft, Nokia, designed for the massive ecosystem of Amazon, and handled IP for Pokémon, just to name a few. I've designed movie posters, album covers, and video game key art seen by millions around the world. I've seen how the biggest companies in the world value design, and I've seen how they pay for it. The wealth is there. The problem is that most designers are trained to be makers rather than owners. We're taught to master the pen tool, but we aren't taught to master the profit and loss statement. This video is a blueprint. It's the result of 15 years of observing how top-tier creatives actually build wealth. We're going to talk about the transition from freelancer to consultant, the power of equity over hourly rates, and the mathematical reality of hitting that 7-figure net worth. This isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. Those never work and are based purely on luck. It's a get-rich because you're indispensable strategy that's proved time and time again to actually work. I also want to be 100% transparent with you right out of the gate. I am not a millionaire yet. I'm not standing here in front of a Lamborghini, but I am on this exact path that I will be walking you through. I have the data, I have the trajectory, and based on my current assets and income streams, I am on track to hit that goal. I'm sharing this blueprint because I want us to get there together. The starving artist is dead, and it's time for the equity-rich creative to take over. I also won't sugarcoat things. We're going to look at the numbers, the tax strategies, and the mindset shifts required to stop trading time for money. I'll also be using high-level business terminology that I believe is essential to know when you're aiming for the millionaire status. So let's start with a bit of math. To become a millionaire designer, you have to stop thinking about your salary and start thinking about your net worth. Most people think a millionaire is someone who earns $1 million a year, but that's a high earner, not a millionaire. A millionaire is someone whose assets, cash, stocks, real estate, and business equity, minus their debts equals 1 million. If you're a millennial, time is both your enemy and your greatest ally. We need to reverse engineer this number based on where you are in your career. So let's look at the math. If you're 30 years old and you want to be a millionaire by 45 and you're starting from zero, you need to invest roughly $2,500 a month at a 7% annual return. If you're a senior designer making $120,000 a year, that's difficult but possible if you live lean. But here's the kicker. As a designer at the level of Marvel or Amazon, your income potential isn't capped at a salary. You have the ability to burst your income through high-ticket consulting and side ventures. The problem is that most designers spend their burst income on lifestyle creep, the nicer car, the better apartment, the upgraded gear. To hit the million, you have to maintain a senior designer lifestyle while earning creative director money. You need to identify your gap, the difference between what you earn and what you spend, and you need to aggressively shove that gap into income-producing assets. If you're currently making $85,000, your first goal isn't to be a millionaire. It's to get to a $150,000 total compensation package. In the design world, that usually means moving from a mid-sized agency to a big tech role or a high-end boutique firm. You need that surplus cash to start the engine. Without a surplus, you're just a well-paid laborer. You aren't building a mountain, you're just moving the dirt around. I want you to pull up a compound interest calculator after this video. Plug in your current age and a monthly investment goal. Seeing the numbers on paper removes the magic and replaces it with mechanics. $1 million isn't a dream, it's a series of monthly deposits and a strict timeline. Once you see the math, the anxiety of how disappears and it's replaced by the discipline of when. If you are still charging by the hour, you have a wealth ceiling. There are only 24 hours in a day, and unless you are a literal god of design, there is a limit to what someone will pay for one of them. To reach the millionaire blueprint, you have to move to value-based pricing. This is a shift I had to make early in my career. When I designed for a brand like Pokémon, the value isn't the 3 hours I spent in Illustrator. It's the millions of dollars in revenue that visual identity will generate across merchandise and media. Value-based pricing means you charge based on the impact of the work, not the effort of the work. If a client expects to make $500,000 from a campaign you design, a $5,000 fee is an insult to yourself. A $50,000 fee is a 10x ROI for them. By shifting your pricing model, you decouple your income from your time. This allows you to earn more while working less, which gives you the bandwidth to focus on the investments and side businesses that actually build the million. This is where your portfolio becomes your leverage. Having names like Marvel or Amazon on your resume allows you to skip the bidding wars. You aren't competing with the guy on Upwork, you're competing with top-tier agencies. You're a consultant who solves business problems through design. Consultants get paid for their wisdom. Designers get paid for their files. Wisdom is infinitely more scalable than files, believe me. Let's talk numbers again. If you do 4 high-value projects a year at $25,000 each, that's $100,000 on top of a base salary or as a standalone business. If you're still doing $500 logos, you would need to find 200 clients a year to reach that same $100,000. So which sounds easier? Managing 200 people or managing 4? Wealth is built through concentration, not fragmentation. You need to focus on high leverage clients who understand that good design is a profit center, not a cost center. To make this transition, you have to learn business speak. You need to be able to talk about conversion rates, brand equity, and market positioning. When you can prove that your design increased a client's revenue by 15%, you stop being a vendor and start being a partner. Partners get equity. Partners get profit sharing. Partners become millionaires. Vendors get Canvified and replaced. Every millionaire designer I know has their income divided into 3 specific buckets: active, passive, and equity. If you only have one bucket, your salary, you are one corporate restructuring away from financial ruin. And I've seen it personally. Whole design teams just let go on a Tuesday afternoon with no second thought. To build the blueprint, you need to be filling all 3 simultaneously. As a millennial, we are in the prime earning years of our lives and we need to be diversified. Active income is your day job or your primary consulting. This is the fuel. It pays the rent and funds the other buckets. For me, this is my work as a senior designer and art director. It's consistent, it's high income, and it provides the stability needed to take risks elsewhere. You should always be looking to level up this bucket by moving to companies with better total compensation packages. This includes bonuses and 401k matching. I'll also add here that company loyalty doesn't exist anymore. As a creative, your primary concern should always be you. If a better opportunity comes along, jump ship because I guarantee your company doesn't care as much about you as you think. Next, passive income is where your design skills work while you sleep. This is selling digital assets, UI kits, fonts, or educational content. In the design world, this is scalable output. You create it once and it sells 1,000 times. For me personally, one of my largest sources of passive income has been teaching on Skillshare. I've taught over 20,000 students, and if you do the math, that's a good chunk of change. All from knowledge I already have, making money while I sleep. If you're a creative, I guarantee you know something that someone else doesn't, and you can monetize that. If you can build a passive stream that covers your basic living expenses, let's say $3,000 a month covering rent, food, car payments, you are functionally free. Every dollar from your active income can now go directly into investments. Last is equity. Equity is the millionaire maker. This is owning a piece of the pie. This could be stock options in a company like Nvidia, or it could be taking a percentage of a startup in exchange for designing their initial brand. Equity is how you get life-changing money. Salaries make you a living, but equity can make you a fortune. When a company you own a piece of goes public or gets acquired, that is the wealth event that shaves a decade off your retirement timeline. The goal is to move the active money into equity and passive assets. Most designers do the opposite. They use their active money to buy depreciating assets like new tech, fashion, or going on a spontaneous weekend to Bali. You have to flip the script. Your primary job is to be an asset collector. Every time you get a paycheck, you should be asking, how much of this am I keeping forever in the form of an asset? In the modern design economy, your personal brand is the multiplier for your net worth. Look at it this way. There are thousands of great designers who have worked for big brands, but the ones who are on the millionaire track are the ones who have a platform. Your brand is what allows you to command the $50,000 fees we talked about earlier. It's what brings the opportunities to you rather than you chasing them. Think of your brand as a trust accelerator. When a client sees that you've designed for Marvel and that you have a clear, authoritative voice on design strategy, they don't ask for a discount, they ask for your availability. A personal brand allows you to sell the person rather than the pixel. People will pay a premium for your perspective that they won't pay for a generic design agency. This doesn't mean you have to be an influencer in the annoying sense of the word. It means you need to be visible in your niche. Whether it's LinkedIn, a curated portfolio, or a YouTube channel, you need to be documenting your experience. For me, I have a personal brand presence on TikTok with almost 400,000 followers. It takes time to grow for sure, but don't overthink it. People want to see the process behind things, so it can be as simple as screen recording yourself designing a logo, or doing a digital painting, or an album cover for your favorite artist. It's not difficult, but it does take time and dedication. This visibility creates a moat around your career. It makes you harder to replace and way easier to find. A strong brand also leads to inbound equity. This is when startups reach out to you not just to hire you, but to ask you to be an advisor. Advisors often get 0.1% to 1% of a company just for showing up to a meeting once a month and providing art direction for their team. If that company hits a $100 million valuation, for example, your 0.5% is worth $500,000. That is the power of brand leverage. You're being paid for your aura and your authority, not just your hands. I started focusing on my brand a few years ago, and the difference in the type of work I get is night and day. I stopped getting the "can you make this pretty" emails and started getting "we have a $20 million launch, can you lead the visual strategy" type of emails. The work is actually easier because there is more trust, and the pay is 5 times higher. That 5 times difference is what goes straight into the millionaire bucket. Designers are visual spatial thinkers. We often find spreadsheets and stock market charts ugly or overwhelming, but as a millennial, you cannot afford to ignore the market. The millionaire blueprint requires you to automate your wealth building so you can focus on your craft. You don't need to be a day trader, you need to be a consistent accumulator. Like with everything, don't overthink it, just keep it simple. The simplest path is actually the boring path. You take your gap money and you put it into low-cost index funds like the S&P 500 or a total stock market fund. This allows you to own a tiny piece of the 500 biggest companies in the US, including the ones you probably work for like Amazon, Disney, and Netflix. Historically, the market returns about 10% a year. If you're, let's say, 30, you have 35 years of compounding before retirement. Those many years of compounding is what does the heavy lifting for your million. You also need to understand tax-advantaged accounts. If you're a freelancer, you should have a SEP IRA or a solo 401k. This allows you to stash away up to $69,000 a year tax deferred. That is a massive tax shield. If you're in a high tax bracket because of your senior designer's salary, every dollar you put into these accounts is a dollar the government can't touch yet. It's like getting an immediate 25 to 30% return on your money. Real estate is the other designer-friendly investment. Because we have an eye for aesthetics and bones, designers are naturally good at identifying undervalued properties. Buying a fixer-upper and using your design skills to increase its forced equity is a classic millionaire move. You're using your professional craft to increase your personal net worth. A well-chosen rental property can provide both cash flow, which is passive income, and long-term appreciation, which is equity. I'll go more into real estate investing for designers in a future video, but know that it can be a complete game changer. The key here is automation. I have my account set up so that the money is gone before I ever see it in my checking account. It goes straight to the brokerage. If I don't see it, I don't miss it, and more importantly, I don't spend it. As designers, we're used to systems. We build design systems for apps and brands. You need to build a financial system for your life. A system doesn't require willpower. It just requires a one-time setup. Now, we need to have a serious talk about the millennial designer aesthetic. We love nice things, let's be honest about it. We love Herman Miller chairs, the latest MacBook Pro, Ultra Super Megatron, or whatever they're going by now, and $18 bags of single origin coffee. There is a cost of entry to the creative world that feels very expensive. But lifestyle creep is the #1 reason why high-earning designers stay nouveau poor, to put it nicely. Lifestyle creep is when your expenses rise exactly in tandem with your income. So let's say you get a $20,000 raise and suddenly you need a car that costs $400 more a month. You get a bonus from the success of a campaign and you spend it on a luxury vacation to Japan. You're running faster, but you're staying in the same place. To reach the million, you have to break the link between what you earn and what you spend. I've made it a rule. Whenever my income bursts, whether it's a big freelance project or a bonus, at least 70% of that money goes into investments. The other 30% I can use to live a little. This allows me to enjoy my success without sabotaging my future. I still drive a nice car, but I bought it used. I still use a great laptop, but I keep it for 5 years instead of 2. I still go on vacation, but I don't go to luxury resorts. Think about your monthly burn. If you burn $5,000 and you earn $10,000, you're wealthy. If you burn $15,000 and you earn $15,000, you're just broke with nice stuff. The million is found in the spread. As a senior designer, your income is high enough that your spread can be massive if you don't let your ego dictate your zip code or your car lease. The goal isn't to look rich, it's to be rich. There's a profound quiet confidence that comes from having $500,000 in a brokerage account while driving a 10-year-old Toyota. That financial cushion gives you FU money. It gives you the power to say no to a toxic client or a soul-crushing job. That freedom is worth 1,000 times more than a pair of Gucci sneakers. There is a hard truth in the design industry. There is a salary ceiling for people who just make the work. Unless you become a principal designer at a FAANG company, think like Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google, you will likely top out at a certain number. To reach the millionaire blueprint, you eventually have to pivot from execution to strategy or product. This pivot is where you move from being a cost to a profit driver. When you're a senior designer, you are a resource. When you're a creative director or a product lead, you're a decision maker. Decision makers get the big equity grants. They get the profit sharing. They are the ones who sit in the rooms where the wealth events are planned. You also need to look at vertical scaling. This is when you use your design skills to launch your own product. Instead of designing a UI kit for someone else to use to build an app, you design and launch your own software as a service or physical product. You own 100% of the equity. This is the moonshot part of the blueprint. If you've spent 5, 10, 15, 20 years building brands for others, you have the skills to build a brand for yourself. This is where I am at currently. I'm leveraging my 15 years of art direction and senior design experience to build assets and systems that I own. I'm moving away from trading time and moving toward building value. I'm still doing the work I love, but I'm doing it for my own balance sheet. This pivot is scary because it requires you to be a beginner at business, but it's honestly the only way to break through the senior designer glass ceiling. And please don't wait until you're burnt out to start this pivot. Start it now. Spend 10% of your week working on the owner's path, whether it's learning about venture capital, starting a small e-commerce brand, or building a high-ticket consulting offer. Start building the exit ramp from the 9-to-5 grind. The millionaire designer is not just a designer, they're a creative entrepreneur. So let's wrap this up. The path to the million isn't a secret, it's a strategy. It's about high-income skills, value-based pricing, aggressive investing, and protecting your spread. It's about moving from design as a job to design as an asset. As I mentioned at the start, I am not a millionaire yet, but by following this blueprint, by working for the Marvels and Pokémons of the world to build my fuel, by investing my index funds and equity, and by building a personal brand that commands higher fees, I am on a trajectory. The math doesn't lie. If I stay the course, the goal is inevitable. And if you stay the course, it's inevitable for you too. Millennials are often told we're the broken generation financially. We're told we'll never own homes or retire. But as designers, we have a superpower. We can create value out of thin air. We can take a blank screen and turn it into a brand that sells millions. If we can do that for a client, we can do it for ourselves. We just have to be as disciplined with our money as we are with our typography. So stop being a starving artist and start being a strategic accumulator. Treat your career like a product, your income like a revenue stream, and your life like a brand you're scaling to a 7-figure exit. The blueprint is in your hands. Now you just have to go out and design the life you want. Thanks so much for hanging out for this deep dive. This was a bit different from my other videos, but I think it's the most important conversation we can have. And as a designer, I just have to talk about what it takes for those in my specific industry to achieve their dreams. If you're on this path too, let's talk in the comments. What's your financial goal for the next 5 years? Keep it realistic, okay? And also do all the YouTube things, hit like, subscribe, and if you have any specific topics you'd like to hear me cover, drop that down in the comments and I'll do my best to make it happen. Thanks again so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Let's get to work.